Welcome back. We're gonna start getting some of the other odds and ends on. Here's something I pretty much wishing I put on the crank before I put the crank in the engine, just because of the engine stand, but I think we'll make it work. As you can see, there is some wear in the crankshaft. I believe there was a wear, you know, it's kind of like a speedy sleeve. This one's thicker than a speedy sleeve. Actually has an Oliver white part number. But you slide it on over there and then it takes a different seal because of the thickness, which I've got one of those. Gives you a new surface to seal against without having to mess up the crank. I am going to put a little Loctite sleeve retainer on there so it doesn't move and doesn't leak. I'm going to warm it up a little bit with the propane cylinder, nothing freaky, but just get it good and warmed up and that should help it slide on there. This wear sleeve does have a tapered chamfered edge. You want that facing out so that the lip of the seal can walk up on there easier. Okay, she's just hot enough where I can feel it's pretty hot through the gloves, but I can still hold it. Ooh, maybe. Ouch. And it's already. Oh yeah. There, once we get away from the edge where I can catch it halfway decent. Want to get it back to where it's covering the wear marks. And there's also a small amount that the flywheel overlaps pilots onto the crankshaft. So if you don't get it on far enough, it'll push it. The seal's still in the housing, and I'm not gonna be able to get it in there. Well, that stinks. Oh, there we go. Need to get this cleaned up. I'm just making sure. That it's gonna hit it all right, or if I need to drive it in farther. Okay, I can see from the backside here that it is not. Yeah, I don't think I want to drive it in any farther. Well, I guess it's both sides are on. Maybe just a. Looks like there's plenty of room in the back there. The gasket's down in there, so it's gonna be out just a hair farther. Oops, you probably can't see what I can see. There. That's probably gonna work. I do believe I will measure the depth on the flywheel just to make sure I've got that in far enough, but other than that, it should be good. Oh yeah, plenty of room. I think we're gonna leave it right there. I'm gonna get this back off, clean it up, knock the old seal out, get the new seal in, and then we can mount it. Okay, housing cleaned up. New seal. Oh, that's the back side. Say there's a national number on here. 455134V, also known as the 3308-9746. That is the one that works with that wear sleeve. And I put my hammer somewhere. I've got this driver from a speedy sleeve, but it'll work good for this application. Probably. There we go. Put some grease on the lip so it slides easier and has something to lubricate it until the engine oil gets circulating good. There is a direction to this gasket. Helps if you get it in the right hole. But it's missing there. It's missing that bolt hole, so I've got it on backwards. We'll just flip her around and drop it. And try again. Stay on there. There, now the bolt holes are lining up. Get that baby on there, bolt her down. There we go. I think I'm gonna get a pick and walk that up on there. Well, I got the bottom on and then the top come off. There. Ay, caramba. That looks good. Oops. Bolts are all tightened down, and I can see down in there that the lip is definitely on the wear sleeve, so that should all be good. Oh, what to do next? The oil cooler or the front? Might work on the front. Let's get this front end stitched up, closed up. Probably ought to put some goop on some lube stuff on the teeth. Oh, where'd it go? There it is. We've got, well, that's sad. The gasket just snapped in half. And right at a bolt, of course. Well, biscuits. It's kind of, oh, and it broke again. It's kind of, son of a gun. Son of a gun. I guess I need to find a more supple gasket than that one. That might have been my last one. I'll have to go digging through some gasket sets. Or maybe I'll just order one. I think Agco was kind of getting steep on this one. It's softer, it's supple on this side, but something happened to it over here. Probably got damp or something, and because it's brittle. That ain't gonna work. Maybe we will work on putting the oil cooler on. That sounds like a great idea. All right, so we have oil cooler. Oil pump will go in here. Comes up through the shaft housing and dumps right in here. We have the oil cooler. There'll be gaskets. Hopefully they're better. This one that sits on here, gotta make sure these holes are lined up. Oil comes in, this galley goes down to this end, goes in the cooler. If we look real close, there's these layers, and there's material almost like a corrugated cardboard sandwiched in there. And goes through. Coolant is on this side. So as the coolant flows through, it pulls heat out of the oil. Oil comes back out of this side. And comes up through this channel right there. Comes up through this channel, comes up through this opening, and will go into the filter housing. And I've got to clean that up yet. So we're going to pause for station identification while I go wash up a filter base, and then we'll continue with oil's journey. The journey of oil as it migrates from the pan to all the important parts.
Are you tired of watching Oliver content on YouTube and then leaving a comment only to be personally attacked by the content creator? Well, in my book, that's a technical foul. So come over to my channel, Ross the Oliver Man, where you can get more great Oliver content and you can leave your comment without fear of being insulted by me, the creator. Heck, the worst I'll do is tell you to go cluck yourself. So visit me at Ross the Oliver Man and subscribe today.
All right, it's clean now. Just the last of the mineral spirits drying off after blowing it off. So our oil is on its magic journey. It's gone through the cooler. It's going to come through this hole. It's going to go in this hole, which lines up, which pushes it up into the filter for the most part. Over here is this assembly. The spring's holding this plunger in. And so if your oil is, say, really thick or your filter is really plugged, that will push in and bypass the filter, because otherwise it could just crush the filter right down and rupture it, something like that. Or if your filter is getting so dirty the oil can't even get through it, at least when this opens up, your engine's still getting some kind of oil. It's going to be oil straight from the pan, dirty oil, not filtered, but dirty oil is better than no oil. So goes in, comes up, filters, pushes from the outside to the inside. That center hole is where the bolt goes through the whole thing to tighten it down. Goes out through there. It's all been filtered, unless the bypass opened up. Comes back down to go in. Yes, it comes out this hole. It also directs towards this hole. Some of these filter bases have two valves in them, and one's to control pressure to everywhere else, and the other one, this one's only got the single, just the filter bypass. So fill oil comes down. There's a drilling in here to go that way that meets this one. So oil goes back in your engine here, back into that hole, which then fills the oil galley or gallery, depending on who you ask. And then that goes to the crank, which feeds the rods, feeds the camshaft, everything else. This comes into here. And if you got a bypass filter, this plug wouldn't be here. Line goes off to the bypass filter. This goes up to the turbo, and a check valve keeps the oil coming back from the turbo when you shut the engine off, so that turbo is going to get engine on oil as soon as you fire things up. That oil drops down out of the turbo, right above the injection pump gear, and ends back in the oil pan. Let's see, where'd it go? Oh yeah, if this was going to go to the bypass filter, that would go into this plug, which just squirts basically around the gear for the oil pump and cam, and works its way back down into the oil pan where it gets to be used again. This hole down here is a coolant drain. They did have a pipe and an elbow, and so it kind of come along and tuck along the frame. This one had a pipe plug in it. I took that out just to make sure it was free. I'm not sure which way I'm going to go on that. It'd be nice to have a drain on it, but it also kind of makes a little more of a pain in the butt. It narrows up your space putting the engine back into the frame, because you got this pipe coming down here that could bump something and break off. I got time to think about that. You got coolant lines in and out. so that it can circulate around the oil cooler. And that's it. That's how she works. So I need to dope up some gaskets and put this bad boy together. Probably want to make sure my bolts are all clean too. Say you had a catastrophic failure where bits and pieces went through the engine. It goes through this before it goes through the filter, so those pieces could be hung up in there. So the best idea is to just trash it. And I mean, it will end up going through the filter, so hopefully it should catch it if there are any little bits and pieces in there. But a lot of people say, you know, just get rid of it, get a new one. Of course, if you can't get a new one nowadays, this one was dated 8 of 78, so definitely newer than the tractor. I don't know if that's a serial number or probably a part number from the manufacturer. 8536272. So, you know, the fact that it goes to the filter after it goes to this, kind of okay. But then if you're revving up a cold engine and that filter bypass opens up and there's crud in here, it's gonna go right past the filter and into your bearing. So yeah, if you've had bits and pieces in your oil, it's probably best to try to find another one of these and just throw the old one out, or just flush the heck out of it and hope for the best. As some of these parts get harder to find, sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. All right, let's get something done here today. Now everything's oily. Let's get this oil cooler on there. Got the oil wiped off after flushing it with fresh motor oil. So everything sticks good. Try to get it clamped down in short order, so if any oil decides to flow out of that cooler, it doesn't get on the gasket and make it less effective. There. You too good to go home? I should probably put a plug back in that, because otherwise I'll eventually forget it, go to fill it up with coolant and wonder why there's coolant all over the floor. Click. Hey, guess what I did? Probably some of you are screaming at your screen right now because I left that gasket out, son of a... I mean, I was pre-crushing the first gasket. That's it. Just seeing if you guys were paying attention. 'Cause I wasn't. As I was saying, make sure all gaskets are securely in place. Yeah, that would have been bad to add coolant here and no gasket where the oil comes through, and they would have blended, but it would have leaked before I even got that far. I'm sure it would have at least seeped a little bit. And that's how you put an oil cooler back on, twice. It's so much fun. We'll got some leak lock on that. We'll run that in. Say, I'll try to come up with something better, or maybe you guys will have an idea of what I should put in there that'll bring it down along the frame. So if I do want to drain it, I'd prefer something flexible, but something durable so it doesn't, you know, pop off and drain all the coolant. I think that's kind of low in the block where it'd be hard to reach down in there and get it, but I'm not gonna say impossible. I should reach in on the 1955 and see how hard it is. Wow, that wind is howling. Might as well get this baby in there. Get the cropper washer on it. And let's see, how close will that come to the fuel pump? Oh yeah, if I want to replace that washer or do anything with it, it'll clear it. It should. That is 1 inch and adjustable. Watch me do bad things on YouTube. There we go. I don't think I have a gasket out here for this, but I'm sure I do somewhere. But I think I'll get that pump mounted up just so I can kind of get a feel for where it's going to be. It's got to go on eventually anyways. And then you can see what I need to do as far as routing that turbo line. Maybe I can get it pretty close where I don't have to mess up the oil line very much. Yeah, I don't have a gasket out here, but I'm sure I do somewhere or can get one. These have a copper washer on them because the holes go all the way through. So always a good idea to replace those copper washers. I got some new ones of those coming. They'll be here tomorrow. Hammer. Yeah, that gasket ain't in too bad a shape. Almost thinking, see the time that's bolted down. Yeah, that hand primer lever is going to be right there. I can come in low like that. See, before it was like so. That might work. That might work. That's probably going to work. Can't spin this on with the fuel pump in the way, and can't get the fuel pump on with it in the way. There's got to be a solution for that. But if I leave it low, I think it might work. So another discovery is the way this thing works. I'm going to open it up, see if there's a spring in there. But if it's right side up, I can't blow anything through it. Hopefully I'm in the screen. If it's upside down, then the ball falls out and I can blow through. So this is all right as long as it's got the plug facing up. That's good to know. Took the cap off. There's just this little poppet. It sits in there. I would think there would be a spring, and maybe they're supposed to be, and someone took it out. I've never taken one of these check valves apart before. I might have to screw the one off the 1955 just to see what's going on in there. But it does seem to hold as long as it's facing up. So maybe it just relied on gravity. Like I say, I'll check the one on the 1955. I also need to spin that out so I can spin this into the filter base. Yeah. Mount the pump temporarily so we can see where everything's going to go. Let's see if we can get her swinged all the way around. Without destroying that fitting. There we go. If I get her like that, maybe like that. Then this would go in here like so. Okay, it's still hitting the block there. We'll just turn it a little more to bring it around. Oop. There's where it starts pumping. So, well, other than, you know, rattling against that and vibrating. Which I didn't dope this, so I guess I shouldn't be too worried about tightening it down too much. I think that would work. Let me get around here where we can see better. Yeah, that lowers it down a little bit, but I bet with a little tweaking of that line going to the turbo, I can make it work. I think we have a winner. I'm going to try it there. I did some digging through gasket sets and found another gasket. Granted, it's not for the 310, but they use the same, still for the diesels, it's the K471A gasket. I think there's an A on there. And the only difference between the diesel and the gas gasket is the diesel engine has this spot here for the idler drive to drive the injection pump. The gasoline one does not, so the gasket goes straighter along there. I imagine a guy could take a gas one and just notch this out if you really had to. This one is flexible. It's not gonna break on me. So I'll get this doped up and I think I am ready to put that on. Get back over there. So we got a dowel pin right there. Got these countersink screws, and they have to, there's a reason they're countersink, because the gear for the injection pump drive is there and would hit the gear. I might run a bolt in right here just to keep it from the gasket from wandering behind there for the moment. I will give it a prick punch. Oh, it's been done there. Let's just to kind of peen some metal over to kind of lock it in place. Suppose I could have put some Loctite on it, but that ship has sailed. That should hold. a little in here. This spring and this plunger has a rounded face to it, so there is a direction to it. The rounded face goes out. Better put some in here too. Some for the gear teeth, because why not? I think I said it before, but there's no timing on this gear. You do need to have the C's lined up between the cam and the crankshaft. But all the timing for the injection pump is done with the gear that goes on the front of here and the flywheel, which will be in another episode, installment, whatever you want to call it. This pin right here is actually an oil squirter. There's a galley that comes up from the front main, and just a tiny little hole in the end of this, but it squirts oil down on the cam gear. So that lubricates these gear, keeps oil up here. Probably more important on the non-turbocharged engines, since the turbocharger return dumps right here on top of this gear, which is gonna sling it all over. Now let's clean up the front pulley. And there was a spot right here from it sitting so long. I cleaned that up, and there's some rust pits. And I question how well that is going to seal. So I am going to see if I can't find a speedy sleeve for it. So we'll just measure. What size that is. And it looks like it's 2. I would say 2 1/4. No, not 2 1/4, 2 1/8. 2.12. Oh God, need those readers. Yeah, looks like 2 1/8. 2.125, I would say. So I just need to do a little Google search for 2.125 speedy sleeve, see if I can find something. It would be nice. There ain't a whole lot of width. Sometimes there's width options. Sometimes there are width options. We'll do it this way. Oh, somewhere not quite an inch deep. Let's hit the old internet machine and see what I can find. Well, I'm not sure, but this is the new seal, which is a 168 148A front lip seal, which is also known as a CR21061. So I punched the CR number in, and Motion Industries tells me that is for a 2 1/8 shaft, so I measured right. Get the glare out of there. Let's see what I can find. What I'm doing is measuring exactly how far this edge will be from the gear, because this will be sandwiched against the gear in there. There are 2 different widths that I found for speedy sleeves. A 1/2 inch wide working surface and a 3/4 inch wide working surface. And the 3/4 inch wide one is fine here, but the flange and the driver part make the whole thing 9.38 inches overall, which puts it just about flush with here. Now I can break that part off, but then I have nothing to drive it with to get it in the rest of the way. The 3/4 inch one is 3/4 of an inch wide overall. I'm sorry, the 1/2 inch one with the actual sleeve up to the sleeve flange groove, 1/2 inch, so 3/4 inch overall. So if I set this for that, 0.75, if I I drive it all the way down onto this, it's going to be just past that, which works out good. I can put the seal in here somewhere. Go from there to there as a usable surface. Get in there. So I need to get the other gasket. This gasket all doped up, and we can get this on there. Nope, not that hole. Let's see. One more check. Buttons are in their respective spots. Lube on the gears, timed up right. That should be it. Oops. Get that in the right spot. Get on there. Oh, there's one of these that's longer than the others. That's not it. For that hole right there. Well, here's the long one. Let's just get it in there while I'm talking about it. There are 3 that go on the back side here. There are several that go on the back side here, and they all have copper crush washers, and I've got some new ones that are supposed to show up today, but I'm going to get these on here for now just to get everything sealed up. I can pull them out one at a time and swap out crush washers in a little bit here. Later, tomorrow, something. All these around here. So I need the SKF 99210. I will find that. You can get them from Walmart. Amazon has them. Let's see how bad their price is. 35 bucks, that's not bad. That is the SKF 99210. That fits my specs. Will be here next Tuesday, which will actually be probably in the past by the time you see this video. A common question I was getting on this project was, am I going to replace the dampener? And after looking this one over, the rubber seems to be good. No sign of it checking or splitting or cracking. I do have another one that I think probably was mounted at least for a little bit of time. I can see the bolt heads. So I don't know what the story on that one. The rubber looks good in that too. And what these dampeners are is just a chunk of metal with this outer piece and an inner piece and rubber sandwiched in between. And it's not about the vibrations you feel. Changing that, I'm gonna change it. This is for the harmonic frequencies that everything kind of has. Frequencies that you can't feel or hear. It's not just the thing that makes the knobs on the dash rattle. Higher pitches than that, and they can interact and cause things like crank breakage and stuff. So the rubber, kind of with the different pieces of metal, it can absorb those frequencies, those harmonies, and that's what this is about. So I would say this has been changed at some point, because as you can see, someone didn't clock it right with the studs, the alignment pins, and tightened her down, and then had to realize their mistake and aimed it right. So pretty sure this ain't the original one to start with. Like I say, the rubber looks good. That's what goes bad with them. The rubber breaks down, cracks, splits, and then they can start wobbling and all sorts of stuff. They don't do their job and can actually create new vibrations that can break things. So, but I am gonna go with this one. My speedy sleeve came sooner than I thought it was going to. So we'll see about getting that baby installed. Just setting it against here, I think I picked the right size. It's gonna come down just a little bit lower than the lip. Probably be able to just leave this lip on. And, but I do like to put some Loctite between it to keep it locked on, and to keep any oil from seeping through that area. It does come with a driver tool. This time I'm actually going to be able to use it. The old meat hammer. Hope if I get it on there straight. There, hopefully I didn't drive it on too far. That should work out. Right in the middle. That should work. A little lube for that, for that seal, till the oil gets up there. Helps stuff slide on easier. Then it's just a matter of lining up the keyway. And it goes that far without any problem. We'll try warming it up a little bit. It's kind of cold in here, which will be good for the crank, because it'll be smaller. Don't want to warm it up too much, but don't want to burn the Loctite out of there, but that would take, I think this stuff's good up to 500 degrees, so that I ain't gonna get her that hot. I did at least get as far as the keyway without even heating it, so that helps line that up. I'm pretty sure they probably tapered the end of the crankshaft just for that reason. And I found another bolt, something I can put a washer on, get it part way in, or get enough threads where it's gonna, you know, not pull the threads, and do this instead. Yeah, I figured it'd start turning eventually. That's the next challenge. Keeping it from moving. Might be bottoming out too. Bottoming out in the threads, that is. We'll try putting on this beautiful spacer. That gets me some threads started. I should have put the head on so I got some compression. I suppose I could use the impact. I can see looking in there, there's still a little more distance to go. See from looking back there too. I'll put some oil on it though so it turns easier. Duh. There, some on the threads. Maybe that'll make a difference. Make sure that pin's in its hole. I don't think I should be, okay, I might be getting close to the bottom again. I think that's just about it. Let's get the right bolt. I already chased these tap and die just to make it a little easier. I think we hit bottom. Let's see if it still turns. Yep. There's no timing marks on the dampener or anything up here. I have to get the flywheel on to time the injection pump, and I can't get the flywheel on with the engine sitting on the engine stand, so that'll be coming later. I am gonna get the pump mounted, but that'll be another episode. And probably I will hit this one more time with a new torque adapter, and I might wait on that until I got the flywheel on, so I got something to stop it from turning. But at least it's on there. Look around the back side. That should work. This cover is just on a temporary cover. These do have a locking plate. And for the moment, there's a spacer that goes on the back side here. I'm just going to loosely put it on so I don't misplace it. And hopefully I don't forget about it. You guys can remind me in a future installment. Say, oh my God, Chris, did you forget to tighten down that? There's gonna be pieces going through the radiator. There we go.